We want to graph one cycle of y equals the sine of x plus pi over 4, the whole thing plus 1. We need to find the phase shift and the range. Now, how are we going to go about doing this one? Well, we can find the phase shift. That's easy, right? Because we can do that based on the actual equation. So what is the phase shift? Well, it's the number in here with x. This time it says pi over 4, but there's a plus in front of us, so it's minus pi over 4. So it's going to go to the left. Now, what do I know about that plus 1? That's a vertical shift. I know it didn't ask for it, but it's going to help us. So we have a vertical shift. It is a vertical shift of 1 in the up direction. Now, what about the range? Well, we may not be able to find that, right, without actually knowing any of our points. So the easiest way to do that is to actually set up your table of values, or you can draw your base function and then plot the new one, whichever is easiest. But we're going to do a table of values this go around. So I need to write down what is y, and then I need to find the values that I'm going to use for x. So how do I make that decision? Well, it says it's going to be one cycle, right? So for it to be one cycle, I wonder where you have to start. Well, what if you're not sure? Let's start with where the phase shift is. If you're totally unsure, that's usually a good place to start. So I've got negative pi over 4. And then we can do pi over 4, and we can do 3 pi over 4. Of course, I'm going to run out of room, so I'm going to continue over here, and I've got 5 pi over 4, and then that would take me up to, I don't know, 7 pi over 4. So that gives me lots of points that I can look at. So if I do that, for the first one, I need to find the sine of negative pi over 4, and I'm going to add 1, which gives me 1. Then I've got pi over 4, and I'm going to find the sine of pi over 4 plus pi over 4 plus 1, which is 2. 3 pi over 4, I'm going to add that in here. It looks like I get the same numbers I had before. I'm going to add 1, and I get 1 again. I do 5 pi over 4, you should get 0, and then you should get 1. So make sure you're plugging those values in for x, combining, finding the sine, and then adding 1. So what that tells me is, well, I know what my range is now, right? The lowest point that I found was 0, and the highest point was 2. So now we've got our range. So the only thing left to do is we have to actually graph this puppy. So how are we going to do that? Well, we talked about a negative pi over 4, so let's go ahead and write down our increments. And I'm going to go ahead and do some values on y. Now we said at negative pi over 4, it's 1. So that's like here. And then we have at pi over 4, it's 2. So at pi over 4, we would go up 2. And then at 3 pi over 4, it's at 1. And then at 5 pi over 4, it's at 0. And then I've got 7 pi over 4, and it says it's 1 again, which I ran out of space. So now all you need to do is you're going to connect the dots, basically, in a nice orderly fashion, so we'll see how orderly I can get it today. Not too bad. So there you have, remember you want it to be smooth curves, and then once you have one cycle, you're finished.